Hi everyone, welcome back. I have a whole long list of things I wanted to touch on with you today, but after yesterday's video I am exhausted. So I thought I'll just talk a bit of nonsense, a bit of this, a bit of that today. I am in one of my moods, which means that I'm extremely analytical about everything. Everything must have a reason, otherwise it is not worth my time. In other words, I am being difficult lately. I know it is a combination of stress and depression, but I am also in the phase where I do not care enough to do anything about it. It just has to blow over. But while I'm in such a mood, I ran an AI analysis on why I feel the way I do about Charles. I also did a 10-question psychoanalysis and asked the opinion of someone I know reasonably well and who knows me reasonably well, and to make even more sure, I had a lengthy discussion with my daughter. You see, after my recent posts, I again had a few of the same old comments I have been receiving from a few people for the past 8 years, ever since I started the channel. Okay? The same thing, you are just jealous, or you hate our king, and sort out your effed up country first, and then of course none of your business. Same old, same old. Now, for the sake of newcomers and backbenchers, let me run through it all before we get to the hate accusation. It is indeed my business. My one cousin is a citizen of New Zealand. He has lived there for nearly 20 years, I think. My other cousin lives in Britain and is already a citizen. My daughter and granddaughter are both Canadian citizens. And then I have friends, even another female cousin and a number of friends who had immigrated to either one of these countries or who were born in either one of these countries. Now, what do these countries have in common, you ask? Charles as their head of state. So yes, I do have a vested interest in what happens in the royal family, what happens in these countries politically, safety-wise and otherwise. Next, sort out my country. What do you want me to do? Prior to 1994, white South Africans totaled 5.6 million people, or then 13 to 15% of the overall population of approximately 40 million people. After 1994, our African brothers and sisters walked across the border and the population increased to what is today 63 million people. Regardless of this growth in the population, the white portion diminished to what it is today, approximately 4 million people, or then only 7% of the population. So come on guys, please tell me again, what am I, as an elderly white South African female, supposed to do about South Africa? Besides, South Africa is not as bad off as people try and portray it. When around countries like Australia and New Zealand were still trying to get fuel to their countries, our delivery had already resumed. Now, if it wasn't for the slack and lackluster law and order, a lack of discipline and a tiny bit of corruption, it would have been a great country. Now, because we are in such a huge minority, there are only two things we as white South Africans can do. Either accept what we can't change and make the best of it, or get out. Now, some of us can't afford to get out. So what do? We make the best of it. Okay, so now we can get to the supposed hatred for Charles. I can in truth and conviction tell you that I don't hate him. And the only reason why I don't hate him is because he does not occupy enough space in my head. People tend to think when you make these videos that your life is consumed or taken over by the royals, but it is not. Yes, I do a lot of research, and yes, it takes time, but I also help Dragon Man with his languages, science, biology, and geography, his general homework, tutoring him during exams, etc. Now, often that only adds up to a bit of moral support, just sitting with him or making him tea or just being available when he has a question. Because I am following a very strict prescribed protocol whereby I am careful not to do too much and actually teach him to study and work independently, yet still be there for him throughout. And this is also important in our household for numerous reasons, which I do not need to discuss here. I watch very few or very little royal content. You will actually be amazed at how little. There was a time when I watched at least 2 or 3 royal or Harry and Meghan related content videos per day. Now, every second day or so I watch one. You know, if the title catches me or I'm curious about what that particular video would be about, I would watch it while I'm in the bath or on the loo or whatever. I'm very much still into the Brian Koberger case. I'm also very much into the Nancy Guthrie case and a few others, and of course the whole UFO disclosure saga, the war in Iran, the Russia-Ukraine saga, and then just some random other things. My current favorite channels being Harsh Reality, Jules, and Skizzle. Have you heard me mention Charles and the royals at all? No, because for me, they have become my job, and the rest, my entertainment. And when I'm finished working for the day, I go on over to entertainment. So, yes, I don't hate Charles, purely because he does not feature in my brain often enough to hate him. I can cast him or the thought of him aside at will, which means I'm not obsessed or infused by hatred. That said, accept that I do not like him, never have and never will. Accept that I do not trust him, never have and never will. Accept that I have very little respect for him, never have and never will. It is what it is, and if you find it absolutely impossible or disgusting, or if you cannot accept that that is how I feel, then this is not the channel for you. Because I'm 63 years old, I'm not going to change. I will continue to then frustrate you, and that is it. But for those of you who are still here after all of this, let's analyze why I can't stand or like Charles, and have a look at what others said about my dislike of the man. Okay, professional point of view. There is a major difference between active hatred and visceral aversion. Hatred takes a massive amount of emotional energy. It requires obsession, a constant thought, and letting someone take up space in your brain. The hatred usually happens when someone directly disrupted our personal lives. And how true is this? I do not have much energy to spend on old Charles. I do not have any kind of obsession with him, and he has not in any way disrupted my personal life. What I have when I see Charles is indeed more like an allergy. And lo and behold, I discovered that in psychology there is indeed such a thing as a biological allergen response. And it is very similar to having any other kind of allergy. You don't walk around all day thinking about, say, bees or peanuts until you see a bee or a peanut, at which time your body reacts immediately to protect itself. In psychology, they also call it situational aversion. In other words, when he's out of sight, he's out of mind. But the moment his face appears on a magazine cover or on your screen, your subconscious retrieves, in my case, that 50-year-old data folder, which I have compiled of, say, predatory, devious, and sly behavior, and my brain goes, remember this guy? We don't trust him. So because I do not have any personal connection to him, his organizations, or any of his charities, or his daily life, my brain has no reason to waste energy actively loathing him when he's not around. I am not and will never allow a public figure to steal my peace or rent space in my mind. I live my life unaffected in my day-to-day activities. But when the man emerges, wherever, usually on my laptop screen, my intuition indeed flips that switch, and I feel that immediate no thank you. Okay, so now we know the mechanics of the emotion. But why do I even dislike Charles this much? Well, it dates all the way back to my childhood. My grandmother bought the British Women's Weekly because she believed that their knitting patterns were way better than anything available here. My mother bought the Huisgenoot every week, so I got royal news in both languages. But as a 5, 6, 7-year-old in the late 60s and early 70s, I was not reading the carefully curated articles stemming from palace press secretaries, etc. I was just looking at the pictures. My childhood brain must have spotted the emotional distance, the stiffness, the total self-absorption, the cold selfishness, and that set a baseline for how I perceived old Charles for the next 50 years. Now, I cannot rationalize it any other way because I was not taken with him at all, ever. I'm usually a very empathetic person, and I naturally side with the underdog. And I cannot tell you how often I felt guilty for feeling zero empathy for Charles during his illness. I could not understand it until someone explained it to me. Our empathy is not a bottomless well which pours out equally to everyone. So, when an empathetic person perceives someone as a predator or manipulator, like I do Charles, or someone who hurts the underdog, which is also what I think of him, the empathy completely shuts down. Without realizing it, your brain tells you this person does not have empathy for others, does not deserve my empathy. Also, remember, to an extent, Diana was the ultimate underdog. She was basically a child when she was brought into the family. She was far too immature for marriage, let alone a royal marriage to a much older man when she married Charles. Even when she grew older and wiser and became a bit of a manipulator herself, she was still the underdog, because we all knew she did not stand a chance against Charles and the establishment. So again, my, and I'm sure many other people's perception of Charles as cold, disloyal, and self-absorbed became even more locked in. So guys, you see, some things are locked in. There is little one can do or really care to do to change it. In my opinion, Charles also has never changed. He is still the same entitled brat he was at 16, 26, 36, 46, 56, etc., etc. And we've seen it. I mean, it's no mystery or hidden secret. We've seen the childish temper tantrums, the entitlement, and the sly way in which he wants everything hidden and suppressed, from business to family matters. Now, all of that accumulates to a feeling of distrust and even disgust. But hatred? No, no, that is a far too strong a word for such an insignificant man, in my not so humble opinion. Okay, guys and girls, so that is it from me for now. I will see you again tomorrow. Until then, please take good care of yourselves, be vigilant, and stay safe. Bye.